How did the Platt Amendment shape U.S.-Cuban relations? Have you ever wondered how a single amendment could change the course of a nation's history? The Platt Amendment, enacted in 1901, did just that for Cuba and its relationship with the United States. This amendment came about after the Spanish-American War when the United States occupied Cuba. It was introduced as a condition for the withdrawal of American troops, effectively making Cuba a protectorate of the United States. The Platt Amendment imposed several restrictions on Cuba's sovereignty. For instance, it required Cuba to include provisions in its constitution that limited its ability to engage in treaties with other nations. This meant Cuba could not make agreements that might compromise its independence or allow foreign powers to gain a foothold on the island. Additionally, Cuba was restricted from incurring public debt that exceeded its means. One of the most significant aspects of the Platt Amendment was the right it granted the United States to intervene militarily in Cuban affairs. This intervention was justified as a way to preserve Cuban independence and maintain order, but it often led to American involvement in Cuban politics. The amendment also allowed the United States to establish naval bases on Cuban soil, with Guantanamo Bay being the most notable. This base continues to symbolize American influence in Cuba's strategic and economic matters even today. From the perspective of Cuban national identity, the Platt Amendment was seen as a form of neocolonialism. Although Cuba had gained independence from Spain, many Cubans felt that this amendment replaced one form of domination with another. The limitations on Cuba's sovereignty led to resentment and fueled nationalist movements. This discontent eventually contributed to political instability and the rise of leaders like Fidel Castro, who opposed U.S. influence. The legacy of the Platt Amendment is complex. While the United States justified it as a means to protect Cuban independence, it entrenched unequal power dynamics. The amendment was officially repealed in 1934 under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's Good Neighbor policy. However, U.S. influence continued to shape Cuban politics and society throughout the 20th century. In essence, the Platt Amendment legally bound Cuba to a subordinate position, allowing U.S. intervention in Cuban affairs. This created lasting tensions rooted in Cuba's desire for full sovereignty and respect for its national dignity. The impact of the Platt Amendment on U.S.-Cuban relations is a fascinating chapter in Latin American history that still resonates today.